Kathleen Noble. I am a 25-year-old Ugandan athlete. I'm currently based in the States, training from that side. I work as a biologist doing cancer research. Yeah.
First of all, the sport of rowing. How did you start rowing? How was it at the start?
Yeah, so I started rowing in university. My first year of university, my roommate was a rower, and I had never rowed before, but she was very enthusiastic about it, and she told me that it's possible to walk onto the university team and learn to row. And so my second year, I'd done a lot of sports growing up. Actually, I swam for Uganda in 2012 at the World Championships in Istanbul in Turkey. So I had always done a lot of sports in my life, and I was missing that at university, and so I decided to join the rowing team at my university, and that was in 2014 that I started rowing. Well, I guess I would challenge Ugandans to expand their understanding of what it could mean to be a Ugandan. I might not be black, but I was born here, and I have lived here for 20 years, which is more than most people in Uganda, since most people in Uganda are under the age of 16. So my parents moved from Ireland to Uganda 26 years ago, and my dad was working as a doctor in a mission hospital in Chuoko in Luero, and that's where I was born. And then we moved to Kampala, and so I've mostly grown up around Kampala, and now we're living in Lisboa. Rowing is very hard. It is the hardest sport I have ever done, and I've done quite a lot of different sports. It's a very physically demanding and mentally demanding sport. The races that we do are usually 2 kilometers, and so it's not so short like a 100-meter sprint, but it's not long enough that you kind of go more easily like you would on a long distance thing, and so it's kind of an 8-minute sprint, just all out, and I've never pushed myself in anything as much as I've pushed myself in rowing. I am not eligible to represent the United States. I'm not American in any way. I went to the United States for university, but that was the first time that I had been to the United States. My family is Irish, but I mean, Uganda is where I've always had a sports career. I've never had a sports career in another country, so it's the only place it made sense for me to represent. Yes, so that was in October in Tunisia, and it was the continental qualifiers. And so for that, it was basically a competition, and the top 5 women and top 5 men for the single scull, which is the event that I participate in, qualified. Top 5 eligible athletes qualified. It was very surreal, almost like unbelievable, I guess. It's very exciting. I mean, at the moment that I qualified, I had just raced and I was very tired, and all I wanted to do is lie down. But definitely, it was very, very exciting. And I just remember thinking oh my goodness, I qualified for the Olympics, and you just keep saying it until you believe that it's real. I definitely didn't. When I started rowing, it would never have occurred to me that I would end up where I am. Yeah, I definitely was not on my mind. I think when I was swimming, growing up, I did think of it as a possibility, maybe representing Uganda in the Olympics for swimming, but certainly not for rowing. I guess it means having the amazing opportunity to go to the most celebrated sports event in the world, and that's just such an incredible opportunity and privilege to be able to experience that in life. As you said, not many people have the opportunity to experience that in life, and so I'm very grateful for everyone who has supported me to put me in a position where I could have this opportunity. Well, I mean, going back to my early days, I think, my initial team at Princeton University and my coach Paul at Princeton, who kind of instilled in me this desire to succeed in rowing. And then in Uganda, William Mwanga was the one who really taught me how to scull and was training me. I went to the World Championships for rowing in 2016, and it was really William who worked with me to prepare me for that event. And then most recently, I'm living in Utah at the moment, and there's not a lot of rowing in Utah, So I reached out to a high school team, and the coaches of that high school team, Linda and Hassan, have been so kind to me, allowing me to use their equipment, training me, giving me access to facilities, and I feel like without them I wouldn't have had the chance to prepare properly for the qualifying event. And then also my boss has been very flexible, giving me time off and just supporting me in many ways through this process. And now I feel very supported by the Olympic Committee, and I'm excited for the new rowing federation that got elected and the way that they're going to support me and support rowing in Uganda. So I feel like there's a lot of people who have come alongside me. I mean, I would say like before qualifying, I'm not really in their realm of what they're like looking after, I guess. So I didn't have a lot of contact with them before the qualifiers. Since then, I've had the chance to. I met with one of the members of the Olympic Committee, and I feel like there's a pretty good exchange of information. I feel like confident that they are going to organize things, so I don't need to worry about making sure I have a boat, making sure I have tickets, all of those kind of logistical things. I think I'm confident that they will take care of. So yeah, I think that I feel adequately supported by the Ugandan Rowing Federation, definitely. I think the big thing is change of management, which I think we've seen very recently. For the last 7 years, the Ugandan Rowing Federation has done very, very, very little to promote the sport. They haven't organized any regattas or rowing competitions since 2014. The funds that they've got are unaccounted for. And so I think with a change of management and more transparency, that rowing can grow, because there are people in this country that care about the sport and want to see it grow. People like William, people like Katenga, people like Isaac, people that are willing to invest in it. So I think one part is going to be having that trust built between people that row and then people who are the administrators, and then also getting more equipment. There's not that much equipment really at the moment, and I think that FISA will partner with Ugandan Rowing to provide more equipment. And then just having more opportunities, so having competitions, having open days where people can come and try rowing out, maybe partnering either with schools or universities or like the police department, so that there's kind of groups of people that can create their own teams and then they can race against each other. So I think it's going to be a mix of better leadership and more opportunities for people to try the sport and compete in the sport. I think when I was training here in 2016 for the World Championships, I think the big challenges that I faced was equipment, the fact that things weren't necessarily in very good condition, and I feel like William was trying very hard to maintain them, but it's hard to maintain things when you don't have the supplies. Another part of it was not having, because it's not a very big sport, there wasn't a lot of other people doing it, and it's quite hard to train by yourself. And so I was often training by myself at Kisubi Beach with William. I think there's challenges in terms of knowing what to expect. So you're told one thing, and then something else happens or nothing happens. And so for me, what that looked like, I was told that me and Douglas and Raymond were going to go and train in Germany for 3 months leading up to the World Championships and the Olympic qualifiers back in 2016. And I was told that in January, and then we were going to leave in March, and then we didn't leave in March, and we were going to leave next Friday, and we were going to leave next Friday. And so I was told that I was going to Germany next Friday, every Friday for 3 months, and then it never happened. And so that was very frustrating for me, because I didn't know how to plan my life. I didn't know if I was going to be in Europe next week, or if I should try and get a job here while I was training here. So that was very difficult for me, and I know that a lot of other Ugandan athletes have had a similar experience of being told, you're going to go for this competition, and up till the very last moment, they're expecting to go for this competition. They've paid their visa fees, they've organized whatever they need to organize, and they're just waiting for a ticket, and then they never get a ticket. And that happened to William and Isaac, who were supposed to come for the qualification regatta in Tunisia in October. So I was fortunate because FISA, the World Rowing Federation, was covering all of my expenses, and also for Douglas and for our coach Roderick, because they would sponsor one female, one male athlete, and also a coach. But then for bringing the double, Uganda was supposed to foot that bill, and there was even someone willing to pay for their tickets, but there just wasn't any money for their accommodation. But they were told right up until the day they were thinking they were going to leave that they were going to go, and then they were told, oh, actually there's no money. And that was so disappointing for them. And the thing is, people knew that they were not going to be able to go. They knew that there wasn't that money there, but they kept telling them that the money was there, and I don't understand why you would do that. And so you build up people's hopes, and then you just shatter their hopes, and at the last minute you're like, oh no, it's not going to happen. And I think we've seen a lot of people leave rowing because of that exact reason, that they have these promises that are not kept, and so people give up and they're like, I don't want to do this anymore. Yeah, I think it does mean a lot. I mean, I'm the first Ugandan ever to qualify for the Olympics, and for rowing specifically. And rowing, as I've said, is quite a small sport in Uganda at this time. And so I think for the rowing community here, it's really encouraging to have somebody going to an event like the Olympics, because it kind of brings a spotlight onto rowing, and people who maybe had never heard of it before, suddenly there's someone going to the Olympics for the sport, and they're like, oh, what's rowing? And even people reaching out for interviews. And so now I'm getting to share that story about the journey that I've been on, but also the journey that Ugandan rowing has been on, and the frustrations that people have gone through, but also the hope that we have in the future now with change of administration and with my opportunity to go to the Olympics and things like that. So I think that it is something that people are excited about. In many ways, I loved growing up in Uganda. It's such a beautiful country. People are so friendly. There's so many, it's so just like alive, even the streets are alive. People are walking around, and there's markets and all of that. I think what is difficult, definitely, as somebody who is a Mzungu growing up here, is the sense that no one ever takes you seriously. Like, it doesn't matter how many years I live here, people always laugh at me when I say I'm Ugandan. That's usually the response. If people ask where are you from and I say I'm Ugandan, they just laugh at me. Which, I understand it, I get it. People aren't used to the idea that you could be Ugandan and not be black, but at some point it's just I don't know, I guess it makes me sad. And it makes me feel like I don't belong here, and I never could belong here. Yeah. I am, I know. But I think that's just the reality of how things are. Maybe things in the future will change, but for now, people will always, when they see me, they will always assume that I'm a tourist, right? That's just the way it is, and I guess I'm used to it, but yeah, I don't know.
Do you speak any Ugandan languages?
I don't, and I think that's probably another big reason that people don't take me seriously. I feel like I should have learned something, but I guess we always grew up in Kampala, and everyone here speaks, English is the language of instruction in Ugandan schools, so Ugandans speak English, and so I can talk to people in English and they can understand me and talk back. And I guess there was never a reason that I needed to learn it. But I think it would have made a big difference if we had been taught, Luganda or Swahili or something growing up.
When not in abroad, what's your other life?
So I work as a lab technician in a research lab. So our lab looks at we look at how animals resist cancer. So there's certain animals that don't really get cancer, and it's surprising. Animals like elephants don't get cancer. And you would think because elephants are so big and they live so long that they would actually get a lot of cancer, but they don't. And so our lab is looking at how it is that these animals have evolved resistance to getting cancer, and trying to turn that into treatments for people. So that's what I work on. It's my job in the States is in that lab, working on cancer research. There's not much opportunity to be outside on the water, so it's a lot of indoor training at the moment. So usually I go to the gym every morning and work out, and then in the afternoons, 4 times a week, I join this high school team that I was telling you about. It's called Utah Crew, and I join them for their indoor training sessions. And that's been fantastic because I really enjoy rowing with the kids, these high school kids, some of who are very good, and having other people, to practice with, because it's hard when you're doing it by yourself. And so I'm going to keep up with those preparations, and then I'm hoping closer to the time that I can go to some competitions in preparation for the Olympics. Well, I have no complaints about my education. I think I was very fortunate. My mother is a teacher, and so she was teaching mostly, well, first we were at Kibera, which I guess is now Kampala International School. She was a teacher there, and then she moved to International School of Uganda, which is out here in Lubowa. And so we got to go, because she was teaching there, then we had free school fees at that school. And so I spent most of my education from like 4th grade, I don't know what that is, like primary 5 or something, up until the end of secondary school there. And it was, I feel like I had a fantastic education. Doing the International Baccalaureate, I learned a lot of interesting things, had really good teachers, and I feel like that definitely instilled in me like an interest in learning.